when we get used to eating the same things, one of the things that happens is our bodies say, oh, I recognize chicken. It's really easy for me to digest chicken. So boom, it actually requires fewer calories to digest that chicken. So one of the great things that you should do is actually really mix up your foods. It's one of the reasons that staying with seasonal foods is a great idea. I actually read we encountered someone somewhere that I think they called it, there's something like the 100-mile diet, where you should restrict all of your food to food that's grown within 100 miles. Now, obviously, here in Aptos, where we're right next to Watsonville and all the organic produce coming out of Santa Cruz and whatnot, and close to the ocean for fish, that's really easy to do. It's obviously way more complex for people in some other areas. But if you can do that, if you happen to live in one of those sort of produce-rich areas, then it's a very cool thing to be able to do. And it supports the local economy as well, which is also nice.
Now, is there dressing on that salad?
Not yet. No, I never dress the salad.
Okay.
I am a big opponent to dressing salads, because then what you don't eat that day turns into stuff that is, you know, want to have it the next day.
So,
right?
so wait, no salad dressing.
No. We do salad dressing.
Okay.
I already have a salad dressing here. And I forget which this one is, but I think this is,
Balsamic?
no, this is let me see here. This is a sort of a Thai inspired, kind of Chinese chicken salad is Thai-ish,
Okay.
salad-ish.
So a little sweet?
I don't think I have anything sweet. This is ginger, soy sauce, sesame oil, peanuts, a little bit of heat from that garlic paste. Go ahead and taste that. Let's see what you think.
That's great. Yeah.
So,
It has a natural sweetness, I think.
yeah, and you know, and I, like I said, I just love the flavor of sesame oil. So what we do is a little bit of this. Try to get a little color. We like different colors in our food. They say, my sister Janet with her Health for You, Here for You health coaching website is always saying eat the rainbow. I am a fan of different colors as well, so we just do that. And then we will dress that.
So how long will the is this cooking for?
So that only takes about 20 minutes.
Can you open it?
Yeah, give me
I just
one
want to
second.
show.
So this
Okay.
is my high-tech way
Is
of
it a
doing
little al dente? You want it a
No.
little bit
No.
or very soft?
No, because I'm going to do them as mashed.
Okay, you mash
keep
it
them
like
like
that.
that.
Yep.
And then I am actually, you might think I'm an idiot or a nut, but I'm really not. I'm going to save this liquid for another time, because I put in a little bit too much water, right? And you can see from the color that that's a combination of the
It's
chicken
beautiful,
stock
yeah,
that has
yeah.
color there. But you know, there's a lot of flavors in there. It's
Oh,
good,
yeah.
it's good flavor. So why
I do
would
that too.
and it's good nutrient. So why would I ever?
Exactly.
So, because I've done this only takes, like I said, it's like 15-20 minutes, right? And this is.
Now these yams are high in vitamin C.
I am afraid that I don't recall all the benefits of yams. And I'm sorry. It's, I know that they provide the carbs that we need.
Okay. Without the potato starchiness.
Well, yeah. So potatoes are high glycemic, and even though these look like potatoes, these are not high glycemic. This is a slower absorbing carbohydrate. So, and I want to just address the whole carbohydrate thing, and I want to say with very emphatically, there is no one best diet in the world. People ask me all the time, what's the best diet? What's the best diet? Right? Well, the best diet is pretty much fresh whole foods, mostly plants, not too much. But there are a lot of variations. If you really think about it, people in China grew up with different food inheritance than people in India, then did people in Pakistan, then did people in Germany, then did people in England, then did people in the United States, etc., right? And so we all have different, actually literally physiological adaptations to it, but we also have different gut biomes. And so the food that is perfect for someone from India is not going to be necessarily perfect for the person from the United States. I mean, they literally have done studies on this, where there was one study that was done where they strapped actual glucose monitors to a whole bunch of volunteers and then tracked the glucose levels for what they were eating and different foods for, I think it was a week. So they had like several thousand data points by the end of the time that this was done. And for one person, they would sit down and have a bowl of ice cream and their blood sugar would just be like this. And another person would sit down and have that same bowl of ice cream and their blood sugar would go swing. So it's, we're all of our bodies are a little bit different. So it's really critical to find out what's good for you, what's the best food for you. And, some people would say, like Walter Longo, a great longevity scientist, recommends that you stay with food that's in your genetic inheritance. Like, what did your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents eat, right? And sort of do the same thing. I think that's a great idea. Personally, I love flavors. So I'm not going to stay with meat and potatoes.
Okay.
I'm just not going there.
The German way, exactly.
The German way, and my last name is Shoot, so no, I'm not going there. So I'm going to do other stuff. And
So you don't get any cravings for like red meat, or do you?
Sure. If I'm driving down the road and it's a nice warm summer afternoon and I smell a barbecue, I'm going, hit me. but the point is you just have to make choices. I mean, it's like fried food, is a well-known thing that has, what do they call it? It's advanced glycemic end products, or AGEs. And we now know that AGEs are a leading cause of cancer. It's basically where different kinds of sugars and whatnot bind to your cells, and they make the cells have plaque in them, and that causes aging.
Okay.
And so is it reasonable to say, gosh, I understand that this food is bad for me, and then therefore eliminate that food from your diet? Well, eliminate is kind of a strong word in my opinion. Again, I have this strong feeling that it's what you do most of the time that counts. So if most of the time you're eating fresh whole foods, mostly plants, and not too much, then you're 99% on the right path, right? And if you mix that up with an occasional steak, or like I do, go down to the Crow's Nest and have a bowl, have a thing of calamari.
Okay.
You know what? You gotta live.
Right.
As well as, you gotta have a life, as well as, plan
Treat
for
yourself sometimes.
Yeah. So, I mean, would I eat calamari every night? I don't even know how to make it, so no, I definitely wouldn't.
Or fried chicken, that's my weakness.
Yeah, it's my father's weakness too. I mean, my father was raised in the deep south, fried chicken and fried fish, and he's in heaven. But is it a good idea to do on a regular basis? I don't think so. And so, you just have to say that in my opinion, you kind of have to look at it and say, I'm going to make some trade-offs here, right? And what are those trade-offs? Well, I'm going to trade my fried food, I'm going to trade my white bread, I'm going to trade my soda, which, by the way, nobody should ever be drinking any soda, period. I'm going to trade those things to give myself longer years, a trimmer waist, which positively correlates to longer life, better health, less disease, etc.
Exactly.
It's like, what outcome do you want? I mean, I just really think it's all about, you are in control of your outcomes. To my dad's point, it's diet and luck and exercise and luck and a whole lot of luck, right? So some people just we've all heard about that person that was in amazing health that ran 50 miles a week, and then they passed away while they were running, right? Or maybe that's an exaggeration, but that person who was just extremely healthy went to the gym regularly and then they passed away at a young age. Well, that's the luck component, right? And some people have, there's all kinds of different issues. But there are things that you can control. And if you don't control those, if you don't say, I'm gonna make these adjustments, then, my wife says the 3 saddest words from a dying person are woulda, coulda, and shoulda.
But I think also you have a spiritual element, is that our bodies are temples.
Absolutely. And, I think of it not just as our bodies, but I think, in a way, for me, it's not just our bodies are temples, but it's also,
I'm smelling the mushroom.
I also think a lot about just how were we designed, right? And you can look at how we were designed and say, and what is sort of natural food for us to eat. This is why I like the paleo movement is so big. People think, well, because our ancestors only ate these things and didn't eat these other things, that therefore that's how we should eat. Well, that's actually not necessarily wrong, right? There's some logic to the paleo movement.
You follow that?
No, I
Okay,
don't.
okay.
Like I said, I go to In-N-Out Burger from time to time, and but I have to admit, because of the logic behind the paleo movement, I've definitely dramatically reduced my grain intake. So that is for sure. Even though a lot of the different websites and the national health sites will talk about grain as
Like
being
pasta, you reduce pasta and rice?
I basically don't eat pasta anymore, and this is one of the things that's really sad. We do from time to time. We actually have some raviolis in there, some vegetarian raviolis we got from Costco in the fridge.
Okay.
So we do have it from time to time, but again, pasta is one of those things where what's pasta made from? It's basically made from white flour and eggs and oil, and the white flour is high glycemic. And I'm not a big fan of high glycemic. And I also, to date, haven't found any whole wheat pastas or whole grain pastas that I like well enough to say that's going to be a suitable thing. So it's been easier for me to just cut it out of my diet than not to have it at all. And again, I don't want to say that we're totally religious on this.
What about homemade pasta? That's just flour
It's the same thing though, right?
Okay.
Homemade white flour. It's a really interesting study that was done a while ago that I think everybody ought to be aware of, and that's that in this one study they took mice and they gave them an unlimited amount of whole grain wheat, right? And for a while they were eating all of the white part, which is the sort of immediately satisfying, it raises your glucose levels and all those kinds of things. But it's all, at the end of the day, it's not very good for you. After a while, and it was a while in this closed community, after a while the mice shifted away from eating the white part and they started just eating the germ, which is the healthiest part. There was a cycle where the mice went to being massively overweight, and then they naturally sort of sorted it out that the germ is where the good stuff is, and they wound up landing on an amount of the proper food that was more nutritious. Now that's what we need to do as well. And you need to at some point you got to look at things and you say, I can't chase my taste bud, or I can't follow my taste buds, which is not to say that you can't make delicious food with all kinds of things, but it's but some of those things that are easier they're just not as good for us. Here's another great study. They took a bunch of kids like in a nursery, and they gave them an unlimited amount of food all the way around, with the exception of they had no sugar, right? So they had no sugar elements in it. And what they found is that the kids would go around and they'd grab a handful of this and they'd grab a handful of this, and not necessarily over one day, but over several days, the kids would naturally eat a balanced diet. So what does the body need? The body just tells them, oh, I need an orange today. Oh, I need an apple today. Oh, I need some nuts tomorrow. Oh, I need a little bit of chicken, whatever, right? What they found is that when they introduced sugar, candy, and whatnot into that same exact controlled environment, all the rules went out the window, and what they were going for was the candy. It's easy, it's palate pleasing, right? But it's not good. So you have to decide that you don't want to do that or be that, and make that very conscious so that you positively affect your outcome. You know, I'm always thinking, what outcome do you want?
So carbs is almost like an addiction.
Excuse me?
Carbs like seems to be like almost an addiction to people.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. So I have to say, I should have been cooking this at a little bit lower temperature, which is what I normally do. But we're a little time constrained here, so I'm going more the seared.
Okay, perfect.
And I will again remark on the reasoning for that. Again, going back to advanced glycation end products, the AGEs. So fried foods sort of create the AGEs, and when you sear food, you're more likely to promote the creation of AGEs within the food that you're eating. So doing like a longer, slower cooking is good. Seared is delicious, I get it. But your palate shifts as your diet shifts. You know, you start making these slow increments. I don't recommend anybody just switch up whatever they're doing today and go to something completely different, because it's not sustainable. Most people change habits about as fast as aircraft carriers make U-turns, right? You have to make slow, steady, incremental progress. It's just like we talked about earlier. You're not going to go from being completely sedentary to going to the gym and putting in 5 hours of workout. If you do, you're going to blow yourself out, and it's not going to be sustainable. So start with 10 or 20 minutes a day and do that for a while. Pat yourself on the back. You're moving in the right direction. Congratulate yourself. Feel good about that. Then do a little bit more, and then add in a little bit more, and add in a little bit more. And after a while, you'll find that you are in a spot where you're getting enough exercise, and your body's going to thank you for it. So
It's smelling so good in here.
I do smell the mushrooms. I do. So I'm going to put in a little bit of this also. Which will create a little bit of steam to help those cook. And this is our little ingredient stack. I love these things. I love Better Than Bouillon. I don't think it's organic, but
Okay.
It's a great product.
Do you make a lot of soups?
Yeah, I do. Actually, great food tip for all you foodies out there, if you're not doing this already. Save your Parmesan Reggiano rinds and that you use, and then in the wintertime when you go ahead and you're making a soup or something like that, you just pop one of those out of the freezer and you pitch it in. Adds a great sort of savoriness to this big fat round savory sort of Parmesan-y, smoky thing. Just goes all the way through your food. It's awesome, super good.
Oh, good. I need some of your soup recipes. I hope you post them on your website.
I will. I don't.
Okay.
I have to say, I made soup in one of the restaurants that I worked in for a long time, and so now I don't really. I'll make recipes. I promise you, and I'll put them on the website because soup is a great thing, and especially when it's done right. But now it's sort of like I look at what ingredients are in the refrigerator, and I go, oh, that equals a soup.
Yeah,
So
that's the best way to do it.
It's fun. My son Keaton brought home this big piece of steak, and it was coated with pepper, and it had been cured like with the pepper on it, and it was chewy. So I was like, I don't know what we're going to do with this, and I had no idea. And then I was like, well, it's chewy, so I have to make it into some sort of a soup or a stew or something like that. And at first I was thinking stew, and then I chopped it all up into little bits, and I put it in with water. And then I'm like smelling it, and I'm going, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? And then finally I was like, you want to be chili. So a bunch of chili powder, a bunch of pasilla powder, a bunch of onions, a bunch of black beans, and cooked it all down. And I've got a big old huge pot of chili out there. But we don't need a whole lot of chili because that's a whole lot of calories in a very small space.
I need that in my crock pot.
But it's wound up really quite nice. So I think that we're about there again.
Are you ready to plate?
Yeah, we're ready to plate. So the trick with ahi again is not too much. So I'm gonna take this out. we're just gonna kind of go.
So, did you learn all this when you were working in a restaurant, or how did you develop your foodie?
You know, I stand on the shoulder of giants. There are, you know, some of them were the people that I worked with. I used to work with a chef named Tim, who will always be remembered for his famous line, "I think it needs a little more butter," where just about everything, we were working on sauté, and he would taste the food right before it went on. "I think it needs a little more butter."
That's the French secret.
Oh yeah, it's a cooking secret. But then, you know, I'm a huge fan of Alton Brown, and I love a lot of his recipes. I really like what he's done with a lot of things.
That looks amazing.
And there's just a whole lot of other people that are fantastic chefs. And so you borrow, right? And then sometimes it's not even that. Something like, I'm an information aggregator. So what I like to do is read 10 recipes and then I pick something somewhere in the middle. But sometimes you just go, this person has nailed it. Like if Alton Brown's fish tacos, stop right there. Just do what he says.
Okay.
Bomb.
Okay.
Just totally bomb.
Yes.
So
That's my favorite too.
yeah, so good.
Well, so I can't wait to have this with you. So we're gonna go and eat this, and we'll be back.